everybody, Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. We're going to cover everything. We're going to cut through all the propaganda, give it to you straight from left, right, and center. The opinions are what counts. Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. It's Sunday's edition. Folks, the debate fallout continues, and I have a great guest to talk to you about it today. Autry Pruitt from West Palm Beach, Florida. Welcome to Schaftlein Report. Happy to have you with me today.
Be with the patriots such as yourself.
Hey, listen, Autry, the debate fallout, it's nonstop from what happened on Thursday night. America really got to see Joe Biden exposed. I mean, I've heard comments from mainly left-wingers and Democrats. You haven't heard as much from the right because the right didn't have to. The right already knew that this was going to be the case. But the fallout continues. And Autry, my question to you is, what do you make of the mainstream media? They didn't even try to make an excuse for what Joe Biden did on Thursday night. You had commentators from the New York Times, the Washington Post, the New York Post, and CNN, MSNBC, you name it, the entire liberal
Yes.
media platform, and they were not kind to Joe Biden.
Well, I still believe that the media in their hearts, and by media we mean most media, obviously yourself an exception, they're evil and they're conniving. Right now, they need to keep people listening. They need to keep people watching, and people aren't buying the lies anymore. That's why they became truthful now. So before, they could say anything. They could accuse Trump of what he's a Russian spy, whatever they wanted to say, they said, and people kept watching. And then they kept gaslighting people. He's about to be thrown out of Congress twice. He's about to be convicted and put underneath the jail. He's about to be taken out in the middle of the night because he's been, what do they call that? He's had emoluments. What was that? What was the word they used? I forgot what the word they used, where they said his businesses were corrupted. So they've been gaslighting the people. The mainstream media has been gaslighting people over and over and over again. And so now they had a choice to make. Do we continue the game and lose all of our listeners, viewers, and readers? Or do we finally just let the truth speak for itself? And that's what they decided to do. Now, they're going to gaslight again when it gets close to the election, but they're going to have to be much trickier in how they do it.
Yeah, Autry, I mean, it was really embarrassing. And I talked a little bit about this on Saturday's show, but as an American, we only have one president at a time. And when I was watching that debate last night, we did a show on Patriot.tv while the debate was going on. As an American citizen, I was embarrassed last night because, I've been watching the debates going back to 1976, from Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter on forward to where we are now. And Autry, I had the feeling in previous elections, well, if my candidate didn't win, at least the country, I didn't worry about the country so much. This is a different situation altogether. That was downright last night. I mean, I called it elder abuse, and I really believe that because it made me realize that not only were we being lied to by the mainstream media, Autry, but the people in the White House, they see this man every day. They knew he wasn't equipped for this job, and yet they just flat out lied to us. And that was very concerning to me because I'm sitting here watching it, Autry. I'm sure you had some very similar feelings that, my God, this man has his finger on the nuclear codes. The most powerful nation on earth, the largest economy, and yet here is a man that had a hard time stringing together two sentences last night. And I mean, I was aghast at it. I normally don't do this, but I want to read a couple quotes. And these came, folks, not from conservatives. This came from mainstream media and Democrats. Okay. Elder abuse. That's a term I came up with that last night. These are the terms they use: disaster, nightmare, anxiety filled. And Autry, here's one of my favorite ones: political suicide.
Mhm.
You and I both watched that debate on Thursday night, Autry. What's your reaction to it? And the people you've been speaking to, what are their thoughts on Joe Biden's performance?
Well, I'll speak to those individuals I know that don't follow politics. Some of them lean left, some of them lean right. Most of them are just right, sort of center walk type of people, independents, if you will. And most of them that saw that debate, it was sad. It was sad because we all have individuals in our families, either present or in the past, that we've seen this happen to, where they owned a business. They were once a firebrand. They were always a little quirky, but they had it together. And now a family's pain, the deterioration of Joseph R. Biden has been put on display in the worst way. If that was a surgeon talking right now, immediately, he would have been delicensed. The board of whatever state would have revoked his permissions, give surgery. And I'm just to perform surgery. And that's where we are. It was sad. And everyone who I talked to, it wasn't a joyous. They were saying,
Right.
what are you doing? Even a couple of them cannot stand Trump. I have a couple, not too many friends left, but I have a couple of friends who thoroughly detest Trump. And they said, there's no way. There's no way this man can be in the White House anymore. And it's a shame that Dr. Jill Biden, by the way, is allowing this to happen. What kind of, I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn here, but what kind of wife or spouse in general, but particularly what kind of nurturing mother, loving wife would allow her husband to be thoroughly embarrassed on national TV in front of 8 million people? What kind of heart do you have as a woman to let that happen to you? Michelle Obama would have never let Barack Obama, never would she have let President Obama embarrass himself.
And I'll take it a
But
step
that's
further.
where we are.
When you saw that debate last night, Autry, I mean, it was evident early on in the debate that it was going to be painful. I mean, when the gentleman walked on the stage, and again, I'm not a body language expert, but even I could tell. I mean, Trump looked like he had a commanding presence last night.
Yeah.
And from the moment Joe Biden walked on that stage, he looked pale, gaunt. I mean, and then early on in the debate, when he was talking about some subject and the infamous line came up, we finally beat Medicare. I wrote down some notes and I'm saying, what the hell is he just talking about? And then
Yeah.
Trump used that famous line that's been getting a
Mm.
lot of attention where he said, I don't know what he said. And he doesn't even know what he said. And I
Yeah.
thought that moment sort of crystallized the night. You know, people from the,
It did.
I mean, did you get the
It
same kick
certainly
out
did
of it
for
that I got?
Thursday night. It was crystallized. You're right, Mark. In that moment when Trump said that, and listen, it was you had to say it, but you had to try to say it quick and punchy and in a way that got it out there, that stated the obvious for those that are slow, or as Rush Limbaugh used to say, those in Rio Linda. I'm kidding. Kidding, Titty. If you're watchers in Rio Linda, it's a Rush Limbaugh joke. Don't blame me. um, so he had to say it, and he said it. And when he said it, it was just a cringy moment. There were even moments when Trump was listening and watching that if you look real closely, Trump even himself felt bad. You
Yeah,
could tell. There were
you
these
absolutely.
moments. And now we're in a situation where they want to take your kids. It's not a surprise That they're willing to take your little boys and turn them into girls and take your little girls and turn them into boys. Because look what they're willing to do to an old man. If they're willing to do that to an elderly man suffering from dementia, who needs his family and to be at home in Delaware in a familiar setting that he knows, if they're willing to do that to him, think about what's going to happen next.
Well,
Think
I
about what's
think
going to
you're
happen to
spot
your
on.
grandpa.
And I have a couple other quotes here. I mean, from the New York Times, Tom Friedman, he must bow out of the race. Enough is enough. Tom Friedman is no right winger, Autry, as you're
Yeah.
well aware. Former Obama officials, this is DEFCON 1. Pure panic was some of the things, incoherent. But let's talk a little bit about what you just said. I didn't say it last night on the telecast, but I had the exact same thought that you just echoed. Trump literally was looking at him thinking, if I'm Trump, I'm thinking, how did I ever lose to this guy the first time? And I'll be damned if I'm going to let it happen this time. And Autry, we talked a little bit last night on Patriot TV, excuse me, on Thursday night debate night about what Trump had to do and what Biden had to do. Well, Trump looked presidential. Now, maybe, according to the mainstream media, he told a few whoppers. Okay, most people just dismiss that. That's Trump exaggerating. But the fact of the matter is, the pressure was on Joe Biden. And again, he's our president. I thought that idea of the Democrats and the people at the White House going to Camp David, jamming this guy up for 7 days. Imagine that, folks. They're doing debate prep 7 days. Biden was quoting all kind of statistics on Thursday night, and most of them were wrong. And then the lines that came out, I saw Trump staring at him, Autry, like you mentioned, and he had to be thinking, like, my God, this is way worse than when Trump debated him in 2020. And Biden, it does appear that mentally the man has deteriorated. And let me ask you this, as an
Rapidly.
American, didn't you just feel bad that the country had to witness this, had to go through this, and the deception that the Democratic Party and the media have been trying to put on the American people? Really, it's probably evidence over the last year and a half, the decline in President Biden. But boy, as an American citizen, I wanted Trump to do well. I was no fan of Biden or his policies, but that literally was painful Thursday night.
It is. I was about to look at my other screen over here and read this quote, but you're right. It was pathetic. And as an American citizen, not as Autry, the punditry or commentator, as an American citizen, I looked at it and said, wait a second, Democrats. You want to be about the little guy? You want to be about the little people? And this is the person who you have making the lead decisions on my life? Because the federal government's involved in every aspect of our life now. So This is who you've left my kids to, my education to, my schools to, my courts to, my policing.
Wow, it's amazing. Well, folks, we're going to do this. We're going to take a short 90-second break here. But when Autry and I come back, we're going to get into really the substantive issues about not just the style. We know Trump won the debate on style, but why are people connecting to Donald Trump? Be back in 90 seconds.
Sounds rolling. All 3 cameras. We're good.
Is there any regrets that you have in life? I should sit here and say, yeah, I got a lot of regrets. But when I look back on my life and I understand the lives that were lost, I mean, I'm sitting here with you. And I can tell my story.
Former National Security Advisor Lieutenant General Michael Flynn pleaded guilty today to lying to the FBI.
He was one of the most respected generals in the military.
He was, by definition, the most dangerous possible person for Donald Trump to hire.
Really brilliant military career, serving 33 years.
Why was he being so elusive?
Mike Flynn told the truth and faced life in prison.
Every American needs this historical DVD keepsake. Flynn delivered the truth, whatever the cost. Hand signed by General Michael Flynn, one of America's most treasured military heroes. Order now at the Patriot TV store. Go to Patriot TV, click on Store, and grab a once-in-a-lifetime chance to own a treasured piece of American history, and get your own personal download link to watch America's most talked-about movie, as well as a DVD hand-signed by General Michael Flynn. Use promo code PTV at checkout to get special savings. The Patriot TV store, incredible savings and a secure, hassle-free shopping experience.
And we're back. Autry, let me ask you this question. The top two issues that a lot of people on the right wanted to see going into the debate were discussing the economy and discussing the border. Those two issues ranked right up at the top in almost every survey. I had the impression last night that Donald Trump recognized that, and he seemed to have a real economic message that he was delivering to the American people. And you could get a sense last night that from the time Joe Biden became president until last night, prices are up 20%. Autry, what is it that, in your opinion, that is causing Donald Trump to connect with voters, and why Joe Biden is not connecting?
Well, Donald Trump had his hands on that pulse. If you go back to videos of him in the 80s, when he talked about immigration. I mean, I was a kid then, right? He had his hands on the pulse of the country then, when he talked about the economy then, jobs then, immigration then. And the message hasn't changed. Donald Trump, ironically, despite being a billionaire, he still thinks of himself as American, and he's willing to walk around and shake a hand. He's willing to walk around and kiss a baby. Joe Biden is stuck in Delaware somewhere getting his medicine. Clearly wasn't enough, or it's starting to not work. His body's adjusted to it. But that's why Trump's message resonates, is because Trump, even now, do you remember he was in court? The world would have understood, listen, man, they're trying to lock you up. They're trying to throw all false accusations at you. They've been trying you in New York through 3 or 4 cases now, trying to take your properties, your money, trying to take your freedom away from you. So we get it. Don't worry about campaigning. Just be New York. And he still went out to the mostly Hispanic and Black areas of New York and had Chick-fil-A. He's the man that you could have a beer with, right? That's what they used to say. For those of you who are new to Mark's show, old political heads like Mark and myself understand that the election used to be about someone you could have a beer with.
Yep.
And Donald Trump's that person. And because you could have a beer with him, he actually has the beers, and he hears what people are saying. Hey, my kids are in schools and they don't have enough resources. Oh yeah, you've got 25 to 30% of your school that has illegal aliens, immigrant children in the schools. So yes, there's less resources. That's not saying that they don't deserve, right, to have a good life. That's not saying they don't deserve to be known as human beings and to deserve to read an education. What it's saying is, well, they may deserve that, but your kids deserve it too, and they deserve it first. When Americans are hearing America first, now they're starting to hear, oh, my family first. My pastor first.
Let me pick up on what you're talking about there, Autry, because not only did he go to different areas in New York City, he did the same thing in Philadelphia. And you and I both watched that debate on Thursday night. It was no secret at all to me that Donald Trump was focusing a lot of his energy on Hispanic Americans and on Black Americans. And Autry, his approval rating among African Americans is way higher than it was in the 2020 election. And I've got to believe that that's predominantly an economic issue, going back to the old Ronald Reagan saying, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And I think a lot of Hispanic Americans and a lot of Black Americans are looking in the mirror and they're saying, no, I'm not better off. This guy who's sitting there right now has an open border. We've had 10 million people cross the border. And frankly, wages haven't necessarily kept up with 20% inflation. Autry, am I onto something here? I mean, you literally, you wrote a book about Donald Trump. It was called Plain Steak and Water, defending Donald Trump. Am I
Yeah.
sort of, connecting the dots here?
You're
There it
definitely
is.
connecting those dots. Yeah, there's the book, Amazon.com. You're definitely connecting the dots because this is important. Because those of us in the darker nation, I'll say it like that, those of us who happen to be have darker pigmentation, right, are understanding, are starting to see that not only is it an economic message, but Trump doesn't want to have his hands on our little boys trying to make them wear dresses.
Right.
He doesn't want to have his hands on our little girls trying to force them to play with G.I. Joes and strap their chests down so they can be flat chested because they think they're a boy. Donald Trump understands that when these children come across the border, they're going to the poor neighborhoods. They're not going to where I live. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you could see outside where I live. They're not coming here. They can't afford to be where I am in the zip code area I'm in, right? They can't come here. So where are they going? They're going to where anyone, by the way, doesn't have to be someone that's black, but they're going to where the poor kids are, the kids that need the most resources. That's one of the most disgusting things. And Trump he's exposing that. Him putting his message about America first, border security, economy, jobs, him putting that message first is exposing the Democrat Party for who they are. They are individuals that care about everybody else but you. This is important to understand, Americans. And if you're watching Patriot TV, chances are you probably agree. And I'm not being over hyperbolic here, by the way. They care about everybody. They care about Ukraine. They care about Russia some days. They care about China some days. They care about Mexico, but don't care about you. They take your money that you worked for and they give it out to other people. And Trump has said, enough. I want you to have your own money. Trump, a couple nights ago when he did the debate, he talks about the tax cuts. Remember, he's talking about the tax cuts, and he's like, and the moderators tried to pin him in and ask him, well, you gave all these tax cuts to all these wealthy people. And Donald Trump said, because it spurred economic growth. The wealthy people didn't take it and squirrel it away. They took it and started buying stuff, started filtering the economy, and then also started putting out more jobs. They took the money that was saved and started paying more people to do more work. Very basic. And people have caught on to it rather, and we always talk about it's a black thing or a white thing. It's an American thing. It's a red-blooded American thing. We want to take care of our families. We want to be able to go on a vacation. We want to have a decent car that we can drive that's not going to bottom out when we hit the slightest pothole. We want to have a good school. Most Americans aren't looking to be Donald Trump. They're not looking to be wealthy. They're not looking for, Louis Vuitton bags and Chanel purses and Rolex watches. They just want to be able to take care of themselves and enjoy life and have enough space in life that they don't have to work 3 and 4 jobs to actually enjoy their life.
Autry,
They work to live, not live to work.
Is that the reason what you're talking about right now? It seems to me like the Democratic Party has been taking the African-American vote for granted for decades. But that is shifting. And is it shifting because Donald Trump is talking to the key economic issues? Whether you're white, black, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter. The same laws of economics apply to whatever your demographic is. And one thing that the Democratic Party's it's been an identity politics party for a long time. And as you mentioned the great Rush Limbaugh earlier, who was produced by Bo Snerdley, the great Bo Snerdley. again, Rush talked about this. I remember dating back when, going back to the 2020 campaign, when he would have Trump come on his show all the time. But tell me, Autry, I mean, is there a change happening right now to where
It's
Donald Trump realistically could get north of 20% of the African American vote?
Yes, I think definitely. I think that's almost a guarantee at this point. Does the reason why and what's happening? You said something earlier. Is it because of Donald Trump going out and actually speaking to the vote? There's actually two elements to speak to here. The first is this should be a lesson to the Republican Party. I have been really frustrated with the Republican Party because there's elements of individuals in the party that I belong to that are afraid to go out and talk to black people. Now, they're not afraid because they think they're going to robbed or something. They're just afraid because they're like, oh, I don't know how to talk to black people. Well, guess what? What do you call a black doctor? A doctor, right? So you just go out and talk to black people. And this should show every single Republican that has black constituency, get off your booty and go and knock on some doors and introduce yourself. Say hello and ask for the vote because you have a chance of getting it. I'm going to say this. It's unfortunate, but I have to credit President Biden and President Obama more than President Trump with getting black people over to conservative candidates. The reason for that is because of their ridiculous policies. Because now with social media, now with the fact that the mainstream media has actually been broken up, right? Yes, you have the big five, but guess what? They don't have most of the viewers anymore. You know, you have specialized niches. You can't hide like you used to. It's harder to develop a narrative. And now what's happening is, even if Trump was not there, take any generic conservative Republican, they actually could get those black votes because it's the Democrat, the left, the progressive left's failed policies that are actually causing those who are traditional Democrat voters to go over and vote conservative. It's only the rich, wealthy, Hollywood Democrat type that can afford to vote Democrat. That's the rub, right? You can't afford, if you are a black American in this country, an average black American, average Hispanic American, if you're an average American at all, even white, doesn't matter. If you are an average American working a regular job, you cannot afford to vote for Joe Biden. That's the bottom line. So it's their policies that are causing mass exodus from minority voters in the Democrat side and moving to the conservative side.
I'm with you 100%. We got about a minute before we're going to take a break, but let me ask you this question. Two prominent African-American Republicans, both of which are being considered for Donald Trump's vice president, Representative Byron Donalds from our great state of Florida and Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Why do they constantly get vilified by the Democratic-controlled mainstream media? I mean, every time I listen to them speak, they make perfect sense to me. And I'm a conservative. Why is it? I mean, is it because of the color of their skin? What are they doing to create the ire of the mainstream media?
They're speaking truth and exposing lies. That's the simple fact. They are speaking truth. And as long as you keep speaking truth, there'll always be a devil in the grass to try to take you out.
Yeah, I concur with you. I think you're spot on that. Hey, we're up against the break right now, but when we come back, 90 seconds, we're going to dive into some of these other hot button issues. I want to talk about why you wrote that book. And I love the title, but I want you to put it back up when we come back from break. Be back in 90 seconds.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most private assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD at 877-547-5743. That's 877-KIRK-PhD.
I don't know about you, but I have to have that cup of coffee in the morning. And Kingdom Cup is mold-free, it is pesticide-free, and it is organic. It's got this flavor that is delicious. You don't even have to put cream or sweetener in it.
Why did we go with the bean form, the whole bean? Because ultimately the powder form is the one that gathers the most moisture. And that means the more potential mold development. This is actually organic, mold-free, certified. That's important because ultimately people drink coffee, it's cultural. And so we tried to meet the culture where it is and create a healthy alternative.
Make the healthy choice for you and your family. Try mold-free, pesticide-free, and it's organic. Delicious Kingdom Cup coffee. And it's available now at the Patriot TV store. Go to patriot.tv and click on store. You'll find Kingdom Cup coffee in the health and wellness section. Order Kingdom Cup coffee at the Patriot TV store now.
And we're back. Autry, you crafted a book with a fascinating title, Plain Steak and Water, Defending Donald Trump. What went into the drafting of this book, and how did you come up with such a creative name? Give us the background of how you created this great novel.
Certainly will do that. So Mitt Romney gave me the idea for the title. He was giving a speech in 2015 or 2016, and he was railing against Donald Trump. He said, what happened to Donald Trump's planes? What happened to his steak company? What happened to his water company? They're all failures just like he is. And what Mitt Romney took as a failure, I said, no, that's actually a success. In other words, Donald Trump tried something. He saw there was a problem in the steak market and tried to fix it. He wanted to make some money and said, you know what? People need water. Is there a better way I can do the water? So he tried to do that. He's like, these airlines, airline travel now is horrible. It sucks. Maybe if I put out Trump Airways, I can figure out. He was trying something. And that's what the book is about. That's why I advocated back in 2015 when everybody laughed at me, when the radio people kicked me off the air. That's why I advocated for Trump, because I knew he would try something. He wouldn't keep trying the same failed things. He would do things to find something that worked. And what bugged me the most was that Mitt Romney, as well as a lot of these other stuffy Republicans, Mitt Romney is at least the same stuffy one he was back then, he still is now. But a lot of these stuffy Republicans who all of a sudden love Trump now, by the way, that's what bothered me the most, is they kept trying the same failed things over and over and over and over again, right? Think about the Supreme Court. Trump said, we have a hard time with the Supreme Court situation. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the nice conservative body, the Federalist Society, and I'm going to take the list of suggested Supreme Court justices and pick from that list. And he did exactly that. And look what happened, right?
Look what happened.
So
he followed Leonard Leo's advice from the Federalist Society, and look at the 3 justices he put on the Supreme Court and the impact. He talked about that Thursday night at the debate, Autry.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. And so the book was about the fact that Trump was an outsider who was willing to do and try new things. And by the way, he's still that way. And that's what we need. We need someone who can do something new, because Washington elites have been trying to do the same policies. Sometimes they dress them up in a Republican frame. Sometimes they dress them up in a Democrat frame. But they've been the same policies that they've been trying to implement for decades. So now we need someone in there who's new.
Well,
and that, by the way, is the scariest thing for the Democrats. They don't want somebody that tries something new.
Let me have a little fun with your book here, because you talk about plain steak and water. Did you on Thursday night? And folks, this was classic Trump. I mean, one thing I tell people all the time: some people, you've got some friends, I have some friends, they can't stand him, and I always ask them a couple questions. I say, well, how were his policies? Oh, his policies were good. I was doing great.
Right.
And I'm like, well, since when are you going to vote against your own economic interest? And a lot of them, oh,
Right.
yeah, you're right about that. You know, he was really good. And I said, let me ask you this too. Occasionally, does he make you laugh? Oh yeah, the guy's really funny. He's got a grin from ear to ear, coast to coast. So, Autry, I'm bringing this up because with just the devastating problems that Joe Biden had last night, I still and this was what drives the mainstream media absolutely crazy. So Trump's talking in Thursday night in that debate, and he's talking about, well, when I was president, we had the cleanest water ever. That water was so clean and fresh. And could you go out and smell the air? Man, when you breathe that air, and I'm literally sitting here and I'm watching Trump on stage, Autry, and I'm thinking, here's a guy, and I knew the mainstream media was going to go nuts when
Oh,
CNN's asking the climate question, which you knew they were going to have to bring up, and
yeah.
Trump's talking about how the water tasted under Trump, how the air was. I mean, you had to feel pretty good about that when you heard Trump on the debate Thursday night, just throwing a little bit of humor into basically a dead man walking, Joe
Yeah.
Biden.
Listen, I did feel, I felt great about it. I'm still a big fan of Donald J. Trump's President Trump. And what was great about the exaggerations that was implied behind it was he was saying just your overall feeling about your life, what you could do, what you could achieve, what your kids could achieve, what you could hope for was just better. So when he was saying, oh, the water was better, what he was in essence saying was your whole life was better. So do you prefer the life you had with me? Or do you prefer the prison you're in now? Freedom with me or prison with Biden? Those are your two choices.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And you know what? He he tried to frame it, Autry, from a context of, he's looking at Joe Biden. He's really first time he'd been with him in 3.5 years. And even the hardest core Republicans like us, okay, you had to look at that thing on Thursday night, and Trump's making you laugh. Trump's talking about the things that are important to people, food on the table, the economy, jobs. And yet,
Yeah.
things that are important to everyday people. And yet, Autry, going into that debate, he got some really good polling numbers before that debate even happened. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday. 3 major polling companies, respected polling companies, came out, and Donald Trump was leading. This is pre-debate, folks. Joe Biden by 4 points, and he was up in every swing state. Autry, handicap the election for our viewers where you see it right now. Again, we're coming down Sunday here, so we haven't really seen any post-debate polls. We may get those tomorrow on Monday. But how do you see the race right now, Autry, given that fresh polling data that just came out on Thursday?
Well, how I see the race right now is Donald Trump is ahead. And this is what's most interesting. I think about this. The election actually should be more about Donald Trump. The first president, regardless of the merits, the first former president convicted of a felony and awaiting charges. And Biden's deterioration and incompetence might be unfair. He just has dementia. He can't remember anything. Is so much on display that the election is actually going to be about Biden. This is important, I think, for Republican operatives to realize. The election is about to be about Joseph R. Biden, which is an extraordinary feat. Because like I said, he's got other trials coming up post-election. He's gotten the civil conviction for sexual assault against that was BS too, against Jean Carroll, from 50 years ago, right? Yeah. It's crazy. He's got this current conviction under Alvin, which I think will eventually get overturned. It'll be, too sorry, too late, but it'll get overturned. And yet, everybody's talking about Biden drifting off the stage. That's where we are. You know, that's
Crazy.
so if I had to handicap the election right now, Trump wins. Mostly because, you know, Biden is a mentally challenged individual whose brain cells are lessening with the passage of each tick of the clock.
Autry, I couldn't agree with you more. And what it made me realize too, when I was thinking about this and watching the debate on Thursday night and the commentary and the media wringing their hands and, you know, where things were, and a lot of prominent commentators on the left, they're not even privately doing it. They're urging Biden to step aside. But you know, what does he do, Autry? The next day after the debate, he holds a rally in North Carolina. Dr. Jill Biden gives him a ringing, oh, wasn't Joe great last night? He answered every question. I'm sitting here saying, what debate did she watch last night?
I heard, I said this earlier, and a part of the reason why I said this earlier was I've never, I don't know if I've actually met President Biden, not when he was president, when he was in the Senate, I met him. Maybe I actually know I've met him when he was vice president. I don't think I've met, you know, Dr. Jill Biden. She has a PhD in an educational doctorate. So it's fine. I don't mind calling her Dr. Jill Biden. You know, I haven't met her, so I don't know what kind of person she is. I always assume, like any other first ladies, she's nice, she's wonderful. But this is cruel to do this to the man you love.
Yep.
This is brutal. Most women in particular, because listen, men, we can be real jerks. We can be SOBs. But the women who carry our children, birth them, have the biggest heart. They have the nurture. They have the mothering instinct. And for her to allow this and then to promote it, to be a part of the apparatus, was this the promise he made to her? You will be a first lady? And she's gripping that power grip and won't let it go. I don't know. I don't know what to say. It made me also think about, question some of Dr. Jill Biden's motives.
Well, I'll tell you this, a lot of people were questioning whether he would continue on as the nominee. And on Friday, I said this on yesterday's show, I didn't see anything that came out of that North Carolina speech that Joe Biden gave or Jill Biden's introduction. I said this yesterday, there's only 3 people that will have an influence if Joe Biden stays or goes from this race. One, his wife, Jill Biden, his sister, and then his former chief of staff, Ron Klain, who's been with him forever. And Autry, I mentioned this, you know, thinking about, other than when he ran for president, he did win on his 3rd try. But when his name was on the ballot in general elections, like a lot of politicians, he's a self-confident individual. Yeah, we saw how bad it had deteriorated on Thursday night. And God help us if we have to sit through another debate like that in a couple months. He will continue to deteriorate. You mentioned it earlier in the program, Autry, how when, you know, some of us have seen family members, you know, when you get up, you know, I'm across the gamut. Some people in their early 80s, sharp as a tack. I mean, some people in their 90s, sharp as a tack. They interviewed people in Normandy that were over 100 years old, sharp as a tack. But then there's others like the current president, who is in a decline, and that was painfully obvious the other night. But Autry, I'm concerned because as an American, if his wife continues to encourage him, and we already know he's got that super stubborn streak, and subject to what these polls come out next week, boy, as I mentioned earlier in the show, my concern is for our country. And CNN asked a fair question last night. They said, well, Mr. President, you'll be 86 at the end of your term. And when Dana Bash asked that, I'm thinking, God, he's 81 now. He's deteriorated. He'll be 82 if he's inaugurated. My God, our country can't go through this. So again, we're going to take a quick break here. But Autry, when I come back, I want to talk to you about the issues that Donald Trump is facing. He's got 2 big things. He's got a July 11th sentencing sentencing of all things.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to talk a little bit about who he may pick for his vice president and some other issues, which we'll wrap it up with Autry when we come back. See you in 90 seconds.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most private assets, silver and gold.
Call Kirk Elliott, PhD at 877-547-5743. That's 877-KIRK-PhD.
Looking to give your wardrobe an upgrade? Well, look no further. Here at God Country & Kin, we've got you covered from head to toe, from shoulder to shoulder, and everything in between. Introducing our brand new Patriotic Collection, designed to display your patriotic spirit with a stylish look that's sure to turn heads. And the best part is, you don't have to break the bank to be your best you. Why wait? Visit us online or in-store today and elevate your style with God Country & Kin. God Country & Kin, where patriotism meets style. Shop now. Visit the Patriot TV store and look for the God Country Kin banner to find the perfect outfit, shirt, accessory, or maybe a great hat. You can totally see yourself rocking this hat. I know you can. And check out all the great stuff we've got to show your patriotism at patriot.tv.store. Click that link above that says store and join me there at the Patriot TV store.
And I'm back with Autry. Autry, let me ask you this question. Very important dates coming up here. We just obviously had the debate Thursday. Biden had his rally on Friday. Trump's got rallies scheduled. But July 11th is, quote, sentencing date. Okay. So what are you expecting? I mean, out of this judge? I mean, here it's going to be right before the Republican convention, and our nominee is going to be sentenced in New York.
Well, will he try to give him 4 or 5 days in jail? It's possible. I mean, this judge's hatred of President Trump was so seething, Mark, that I think he was trying to give, 4 or 5 days to Trump in jail. I don't see, that's what I see him trying to do.
Yeah, 4 or 5 days, he could end up doing that. Boy, I tell you what, I think the ramifications of if this judge sentences to any jail time, you already saw what happened to Trump's polling numbers. I mean, they already went up. So
I hope he does, actually. I hope
you're not
he does.
the first person that's
I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but I hope he does send some to, because then that would also be real petty. Oh my gosh. If he sends Trump that jail time, we might as well just
it would be
have the
it would be just off the charts.
Oh,
yeah,
it will be.
Look how Trump deflected last night. I mean, this was probably one of the lower moments in the debate, but on Thursday night when Biden tried to throw it in Trump's face that it was, he was a convicted felon, and Trump threw it right back about Biden's son, and it sort of evolved into who was the better golfer at that point, and you could just see Biden lying. There's no way that guy has a 6 or 7 handicap, whatever it was.
Oh my gosh!
But anyhow, on a serious note here, that is going to be an important day because the Republican convention is shortly thereafter. And a lot of names were bandied about for Trump's vice president. We saw Tim Scott, Marco Rubio, even Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, Byron Donalds, Doug Burgum, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, it's really, we talked about it on Patriot last night after the debate, all across, the spectrum. Give me your thoughts. I mean, you've wrote a book about Trump. You've seen him in office. You saw how he performed. Give me a name or two or three of.
Yeah, politically, Doug is probably the choice. Trump needs someone different from him. Does someone outside of politics, someone who is an administrator, who's an executive, who cares about the details. So if I was, had a crystal ball out, My crystal ball has only worked once, and that was in 2016 when he won. Other than that, it doesn't really work that well. So if I had my crystal ball out, I would say Doug is probably the person to go with. I like Byron
Bergen.
Donalds. Gosh, I know him personally too, so I like Byron a lot. Tim Scott.
Oh, he's a great guy.
I like Tim Scott. I think Byron can wait and get on the ticket with somebody, but man, Doug is probably the way to go.
Well, you know what it illustrates for me, Autry, is that Republicans have a very deep bench of candidates. I mean, with different backgrounds. I mean, it really is an impressive group. We didn't even throw out the name J.D. Vance. He's one of the finalists too. But I mean, I think Donald Trump will make a good selection, and I think it's important because, look, we don't know how we talked a little bit about this yesterday. We don't know how the Senate and the House are going to come out. Republicans are sort of favored to take the Senate. The House literally it's a coin toss at this point. Could go either way.
Yeah.
But because one thing that we've seen in the polls, and it's an oddity. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but where Donald Trump is leading in all the national polls right now, particularly in the swing states, Autry, some of the Democratic senators are beating their Republican opponents while Donald Trump is winning the state. Autry, give me your analysis on this. How can Trump be doing so well, and then maybe the state, the local senator or congressperson not faring as well as Trump?
Well, one of the reasons why Trump is doing so well is because we have a president that has one foot in the grave and another foot in the nursing home. I mean, that's, I hate to be glib about it, but it's true. One of the reasons why President Trump is outperforming is because the nation is looking at this saying, you have the Crypt Keeper. Do you remember that old show, Tales from the Crypt?
Yeah.
You have the Crypt Keeper in the White House, walking off stage, having other presidents been to rope him in.
Yeah.
You have him about to fall off. Didn't he almost fall off a stage? Walk off a stage and fell? Riding the bike in the trees.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right about that. And I think people are looking, they're saying, well, wait a minute. Joe Biden is basically the Walking Dead. Yeah, I mean, that's how he looked last night. And people are saying, I know it's hard to what happened Thursday and Friday. I did take a look Friday at some of the betting lines. Joe Biden is falling all the way down to 20%. Because they have where you can actually make a wager on who's going to be the next president. Literally, folks, tens of millions are out there. Did you see that number, Autry? So yes, Trump's sitting here holding at about 60%, and Biden's all the way down to 20.
Yeah. I saw it, and I believe it's because one of the best. Well, let me rephrase that. One of the best ways, let me say it like this. One of the best ways to understand politics is actually if you understand gambling, if you understand lines and predictions, probability charts, is a great way to understand politics. And a lot of political operatives, such as myself, actually use those wager charts, those political charts, to figure out what message we should be hitting, when to put the gas on it, when to let up, when to break. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Trump right now, if I called it right now, he said it for a 4 to 5 point win. You know what's going to be really amazing? If Trump wins the national popular vote, too.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be something. Right?
That's going to shock the Democratic Party.
It will. All of a sudden, you look around and he wins the national vote. And I think he wants a little bit of that because when you win the national vote, too, you feel like you have a little bit more of a mandate. But Trump can easily, I can see him easily winning 35 to 37 states.
Let me ask you this, Autry. You're involved in politics. Yeah. You're the CEO of New Journey Political Action Committee. Can you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about the PAC, how you started it, what you're doing, and what you support?
You're going to love this. Well, the PAC wasn't started by me. The PAC was started by James Golden, Bo Snerdley of the Rush
Bo
Limbaugh
Snerdley.
program. And we have a mutual friend, and I came in and they said, hey, will you run the organization for me? I'm now chairman of the organization. I'm serving as interim CEO while we find another one. So if you want to, go to newjourneypac.org, send us an email, newjourneypac.org. Send us an email if you're interested in running the organization, and maybe we can have a conversation to your listeners. But the purpose of New Journey is actually to move Black voters from the blue column to the red column. That's the singular purpose. And everything we do is to that end. Go to that website, look at our work. It might take a little bit to load depending upon your machine, but we're going to be redoing the website soon. But all the work that we've done, at least 98% of it is there. All the commercial posters, all the letters we've written, the great stuff we have been so proud of. In the previous election cycles, we've done like 50 commercials. What'd you say? I'm sorry?
No, Autry, can you update our viewers and listeners? Because I know a lot of people were gigantic Rush Limbaugh fans. How is the great Bo Snerdley, a la Mr. Golden, doing?
James, his name is James Golden, as you know, and now I'm telling you some of your listeners. He's doing great. He has a show, by the way, on WABC in New York. So if you want to hear some good old American shows, go to WABC in New York, and you can go to it on the web and find Bo Snerdley, James Golden show. I believe his show is titled Rush Hour, actually. It's a pretty inventive title. Now, his show is not, he's always been his own person. His show is not a copy of the Rush Limbaugh show at all. Bo is conservative, obviously, but it's a unique show. He has in there more music, some more interesting guests, as well as a standard. He has a lot of guests, a lot more guests than Rush would have on his program. It's just, it's a really amazing program. He's got a book, right? So if you go to, I think it's bosnerdley.com, or just Google his name, you'll see that James Golden's book. I'm trying to see if I have a copy of it here somewhere. I probably get them all away. His book is remarkable, and it tells some old Rush stories in there. Just classic. He's doing well. And some of the people that I've met, not a lot of them, but some of the people in the Rush orbit that I have met that have moved on are also doing well.
Well, point of reference, Autry, you're broadcasting from West Palm Beach, and Rush Limbaugh lived 5 minutes away from where you are. So, boy, what a booming place Palm Beach County is. And for those of you who may not be as familiar with Palm Beach County, which is both Autry and my home base, Palm Beach County used to be a blue county. But guess what? In the last election, what happened, Autry? Palm Beach County came and flipped red when Ron DeSantis got reelected. So Autry's keeping some very good company down there in the red county of Palm Beach. Autry, we got about 2 minutes left. Okay, so the debate's in the rearview mirror. Biden doesn't appear that he's going to be getting out of the race. Trump's sentencing on the 11th. We got the Republican convention followed by the Democratic convention. Okay, handicap for us, for our viewers and listeners, how you see this race playing itself out under the assumption that it is going to be Joe Biden and President Trump.
How I see it playing out is this. The president, and now Joe Biden's incompetency and dementia is on the world stage. So now the Republicans need to narrow the message and talk to the American people about what we're going to do for you, how we're going to help you and your kids and get you jobs, and put that message on repeat until somebody understands it. Repeat it. Like my old radio producer used to tell me, just about time you think you're sick of repeating yourself, people are starting to hear it. So put that message on repeat. And if they put that message on repeat, Trump can win 37 states.
Wow. Boy, I tell you what, Autry, I hope you're right about that, because, boy, after watching that debate performance, we on the right already knew about the cognitive issues that Joe Biden faced. But when it was laid bare, and I can't understand, but I'm finally in agreement with Democratic operatives and some of the mainstream media. who actually were calling for Biden to step aside. He won't do that. This will be about Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And let's not forget, folks, Kennedy's in the race. Cornel West is in the race. Jill Stein's in the race. This is going to be a 5-person race. And
Yeah.
a lot of people won't tell you this, but and you and I are aware of it. As the polling opens up with 5 people, Donald Trump's lead actually widens. Listen,
Yes, I agree.
Autry Pruitt, it has been my pleasure having you on Schaftlein Report. I hope you'll
My
come back.
pleasure,
I thoroughly enjoyed our discussion. Go out, folks. Follow him on his book. That's a great read. Donald Trump. Oh, my God. I love the name. Planes, Steak, and Water. The great Mitt Romney story. Thank you again for joining me. Folks, that's it for Sunday. We will be back next weekend, and we will stay on top of all these political stories for you. Have a great week coming up. We'll see you next Saturday.